Howdy folks, here to talk to you about stucco, why it's cracking up, why it's leaking, all of these things in the city of Philadelphia. Well, if you got a big crack on your wall, it's usually a result of a leak where the substrate is swollen. If you have oozing black junk, it's the excrement of a microbe that's eating your wall. And rust, of course, is the wire lath rusting away. All the result of leaks, bad work, skipping details, and following the status quo of the industry, which I'm going to talk about here, which is lunacy. If you got a structural crack, middle of the wall, no leak, it's because the brown coat has been skipped in the stucco. They're only putting 2 coats, and that's acceptable now. The building code has been changed. This is a picture of the same wall where the crack was. If the stucco is loose and peeling off the wall, that brown coat's missing. It's not hard. It's malleable. Yes, once upon a time we did have real stucco, and it was 3 coats. A scratch coat for adhesion, a brown coat which bonded to that and made a super strong wall, and then a finish coat which shed the water and also gave you the color. And so the scratch coat goes over the metal lath that is mechanically fastened, and it's allowed a few days to cure, 3 or 4 days to cure. Then comes the brown coat, and that brown coat takes about 28 days to cure. And when those 2 are bonded, you have a super strong cladding system that receives the finish coat, which is the color and the texture that you see, that sheds the water-resistant top coat. Well, we're reduced to 2 coats now because the industry has changed. The building code has changed. It only calls for 2 coats, and everybody's dancing to that tune. 2-coat stucco is now acceptable. But now the emphasis is shifted to underlayment. I called it the underlayment craze years ago. And the exterior wall envelope, it's called now. And to prevent the accumulation of water within the wall assembly, that water-resistant barrier behind the exterior veneer or cladding has to be in place because it's the last fail-safe. The underlayment becomes the primary when the cladding is intended to leak. That's crazy. A true craftsman will never look to underlayment as the primary water-shedding material. It's absolute lunacy. But that's what we've got. We've got an industry that's run amok. The weather-resistant exterior wall envelope. Prevent the accumulation of water within the wall assembly by providing a water-shedding barrier, and that's number 15 asphalt felt. 15-pound felt used to be the standard, and that was weak. But now 15 felt, that's a play on words, number 15 felt. It's thin, it's worthless. And then they come out with other synthetic underlayments. And these are supposed, the new argument, they're supposed to be permeable to let water vapor through. Now, I put something up on my website years ago. Don't try it at home, but if you can visualize opening your window in a cold winter day with the screen down, putting a pot of boiling water on your windowsill, what's going to happen? That water is going to condense on the screen. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that. But that's what's going to happen. Tyvek is much tighter than that. So at any rate, they want this protective. They want to prevent bonding between the cement plaster and the water-resistant barrier. Okay, it kind of sounds like a screen wall. They want you to believe that you got a screen wall because a screen wall is what's needed if you're going to allow the water behind the cladding. A screen wall has a minimal 1-inch space, like this brick screen wall that you see, where water is allowed runoff, if it gets in, is allowed to travel and get out. But when you have cladding Not the case. Cladding is installed directly to the wall. Tight. No place for water to run except laterally and into your wall. Siding is tight to the wall. There's no drainage plane. So water being allowed to enter behind the cladding and without a drainage plane will laterally track into the wall no matter what kind of underlayment you use. This is ridiculous. So manufacturers, lobbyists, builders, and trade organizations, big money influencers, they must give the impression that their product sheds runoff. Since the cladding leaks, they walk a thin line. What they want you to believe is that water that enters has a place to go other than inside your house. So here we go with the underlayment craze. I dubbed it that many years ago, and you should click on this link right here, this page, and go see that video if you want to be educated about how crazy this is and why I got an attitude about it. Also, vinyl siding has been dubbed a supplemental rain screen, and you better use a good enough weather barrier to keep it from leaking. A supplemental rain screen kind of sounds like a screen wall, doesn't it? That's what they want you to believe. And the young little engineers getting out of college, there you go. They think it's a screen wall. They just skip right over that. But supplemental to what? Tar paper? Your primary is your tar paper. Your siding is your batten system to hold that tar paper. That's where you're at. But this makes it all a moot point because there's a 3-story limit. Yet it's still being installed in your city. What is wrong? I want to talk about fiberglass roof decks a little bit here. Right down here you've got a J channel, or in the case of stucco, a stop bead. They get fastened right at the stress point. Roof has load, wall does not. Wall has wind shear. It's a stress point, commonly known in the industry as a stress point. You go blasting nails through it right there. Not only are you making holes, you're making cracks because the fiberglass guy only put a single ply up that wall, a single ply at that can strip. So here's a fascia that was installed to cover the lack of a headlap over the primary cladding. That damage was from stress point that was leaking. So you got multiple plies at the stress point are called for by every low slope membrane manufacturer for a long time, ever since I've been in this. Multi-plies at the stress point. So we got these innovations, these higher thinkers. Innovations are made for profit, not for your benefit. I spoke to the change of the 2-coat process. That change was for profit. Along comes EFIS. It's an acronym for Exterior Insulation and Finish Systems. This innovation, or so it was called, was sold as an answer to increase the R value of the cladding. Another profit-driven, top-down failure. Many have suffered because of this system. It is not stucco, but it was introduced to replace it, and it still falls in the same category because it's masonry cladding. Now, it's made up, its main ingredient is EPS, expanded polystyrene insulation. Okay, this stuff falls apart when it gets wet. It literally falls apart when it gets wet. And it's been known in the industry for years. You don't put it on the outside of a house, or any building for that matter. You should click right here and go read what I said about it a long time ago, quoting an industry expert, that it should never be installed on the outside of a home. So when you interview contractors, let them tell you about their proposed methods to stop water infiltration. If they start talking about underlayment, show them the door. Critical areas are being skipped. Oh, we got a new innovation now, the elastomeric finish coat. It wasn't enough that we had to have underlayment underneath. Now we want to put a finish coat on it to bridge those gaps and cracks so that this flexible top coat's going to save the day. Yep, that's the next thing. It's not going to work, folks. Now listen, if you want to talk to me, hit that contact me button right there. I'll come to your house personally, and we'll look over your sidewalls, and I'll make a recommendation. Thank you so much for watching.